Republicans are not happy with Trump's latest campaign promise.
Former President Trump has proposed a 200% tariff on John Deere tractors if they're made in Mexico. Are you concerned that some of these tariff proposals by the GOP nominee could drive up costs for consumers or hurt urban exporters in Kentucky, for example?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of tariffs. They raise the prices for American consumers. I'm more of a free trade kind of Republican that remembers how many jobs are created by the exports that we engage in. So I'm not a tariff fan.
Now, just in case you missed it, this is what Trump has been saying.
I just noticed behind me John Deere tractors. I know a lot about John Deere. I love the company. But as you know, they've announced a few days ago that they're going to move a lot of their manufacturing business to Mexico. I'm just notifying John Deere right now. If you do that, we're putting a 200% tariff on everything that you want to sell into the United States, so that if I win, John Deere is going to be paying a 200%.
Does Trump really think that's the smartest idea? Has he forgotten what happened when he imposed tariffs on China?
Despite friendly handshakes between Team Trump and the Chinese delegates, trade talks have stalled. No deal on the horizon.
Hello, everybody.
And no sign of President Trump giving an inch on the 25% tariff he's launched on Chinese goods.
I happen to think that tariffs for a country are very powerful. You know, we're the piggy bank that everybody steals from, including China.
But American consumers could soon feel a greater impact if the tariffs expand to consumer products as threatened. China would be expected to pass on those expenses, jacking up prices on smartphones, computers, televisions, fitness trackers, and much more.
No wonder Mitch McConnell doesn't want this. Republicans are struggling again to defend Donald Trump's policies the same way they were doing in 2019.
You know, Senator, I caught your remarks over the weekend, and you were talking, I think, on CBS's Face the Nation about we've just got to accept the pain that comes with standing up to China. I got what you were saying, that tariffs don't come cheap, that'll eventually be passed on, and that we've got to get it right. But I think you were saying the greater good is keeping up the fight. But I don't know if a lot of Americans know that they're going to soon be feeling that. Do they?
Well, I think the president knows that if you surrender to China's cheating, it will devastate our economy and the world economy over time.
So, tariffs. Are they good? Are they bad? What's going on? Well, they sound good. Just like everything else that Donald Trump does, it sounds great. I'm going to make America better. We're going to be prosperous. I'm going to end the wars in Ukraine. I'm going to end the war in Gaza. I'm going to do all this stuff. But there's no real plan. The guy's got zero plan. Tariffs are not good. Tariffs ultimately, the reason Republicans don't want tariffs is because you put the tariffs on, let's say, China, which we did, and China doesn't just go, okay, Donald Trump, you want us to pay the extra tax to import our washers and dryers into America? We'll cover it. Don't worry about it. That's not how it happens. China goes, hey, Home Depot, Lowe's, I'm going to raise the price on these appliances, and you're going to pass that price on to Maz. I pay for it. You pay for it. China doesn't pay for it. Now, when we got into those trade wars with China during Trump, there was some money that came in from the tariffs because, sure, we pay for a lot of it, but some money comes in. You know what happened? We got into trade wars with China, which means when you put tariffs on these countries, they're going to come and put tariffs on you. And farmers in America were affected by those trade wars. Farmers were struggling. So what we did was any money that did come in went to the farmers, went to bail out the farmers. So the tariffs didn't work then. They don't work now. Now he's talking about putting tariffs on John Deere and American companies who are saying, we're going to go to Mexico to build a factory. He goes, well, I'm going to put a 200% tariff on that. It's going to ruin the economy. The guy does not know what he's doing. He just promises big things. I'm going to build a wall. Mexico's going to pay for it. They didn't pay for it. All right? He didn't even finish building the wall. They didn't pay for it. He says, I'm a smart businessman. He's not a smart businessman. He's bankrupted several businesses. He's been bailed out. Listen, he was born on third base. The father gave him a ton of money. And then he kept bankrupting business after business after business. And then The Apprentice comes along and Mark Burnett bails him out again. And then he realizes if I say some racist stuff, America will vote me in. And then he starts selling stuff as a president. What presidential candidate sells coins and shoes and what billionaire is going around selling NFTs? The guy's an economic disaster. And even if he were a successful businessman does not mean you are good with macroeconomics. So we got to ask ourselves, why does he keep saying tariffs, tariffs, tariffs? Why? Because it sounds good. I'm going to make someone else pay for it, and you're going to save a lot of money. The truth is, the one thing Donald Trump did do in his first presidency was to cut taxes, which benefited a majority of rich people and corporations. The corporate tax rate went from 35% to 21%. Oh, that sounds great. Corporations are just going to share their wealth with you and me and we'll be fine. No, that's not what happens. What happens is corporations buy back their stocks. They get richer and richer. Billionaires start buying more and more yachts. Billionaires don't get money and come around tipping everybody. Go, here's some of my, take my money. No, they don't do that. People are greedy by nature. So corporations end up making more money. They get richer. The middle class and the lower class suffer for it. And most importantly, our national debt, it got higher than ever under Donald Trump. Donald Trump was he raised the national debt the third most from any other president after Abraham Lincoln and George W. Bush, who spent a lot of that money dealing with wars, Civil War, and then the Afghanistan War and the Iraq War. Donald Trump did not spend money on the wars, even though we're still in Afghanistan when he was president. But what he did do was he bailed out a lot of the rich people. He gave them breaks. And he made it seem like the tax cut was good for us. He made it seem like the tariffs were good for us. It's sleight of hand. And if you're not smart enough to see it, I don't know what to tell you.
You know, our country in the 1890s was probably, Marcia, probably the wealthiest it ever was, because it was a system of tariffs. And we had a president, McKinley, right? You remember Mount McKinley, and then they changed the name. But one of those things, he was really a very good businessman, and he took in billions of dollars at the time, which today it's always trillions, but then it was billions and probably hundreds of millions. But we were a very wealthy country.
Let me tell you what'll happen. If we impose tariffs the way Trump is saying we should, we will explode the cost of living by hiking the prices of necessities like farm equipment, food, all that kind of stuff, and it will cripple the economy. You think the economy is bad now? It will cripple all of us, starting with the farmers. If you are a farmer and you are somehow watching this and also a fan of Trump, Trump is not a friend to you. He says he's a friend to you. He is not. And any farmer worth their salt's probably going to already know that. But I guarantee you, anything he does will cripple you too.
A massive tariff like what McKinley had, when we're not a manufacturing economy like he had then, and they had a recession then for 5 years.
Right.
What you're talking about is your imported tequila, your imported beer that comes from Mexico, your imported beer from Germany,
Exactly. And
your TVs, your video game systems, all of it goes up by the percentage of that tax.
And to be clear, there's a place for tariffs, right? When you see steel dumping from China, and the Biden-Harris administration have been very strong on that and keeping those tariffs in place. I mean, there is a place for it, but he would have this be a global-wide national tariff that would amount to this tax, as opposed to using it when necessary with specific industries and specific countries.
Right. And they're coming right out and saying, yeah, this is going to cost the American taxpayer more money.
How those tariffs specifically have impacted our farmers. Mr. Stokes, are you aware of the impact that the tariffs that were imposed during the previous Trump administration, how that impacted our farmers?
Well, I think broadly speaking, the tariffs on the one hand are, meant to be a tool to combat unfair trade practices by China, but on the other hand, they impose cost on consumers in the United States. So in many ways, we've got to kind of strike a balance, because we haven't been able to deal with unfair trade practices from China effectively, and this has been one of our most effective tools, but it does come at a cost for middle-class people, and so we've got to strike a balance there, and that's, in general, how I would approach the tariff issue.
Didn't really answer the question, but also at the same time, did answer the question. Companies that outsource work to foreign countries are not going to be paying those tariffs. They're going to raise the prices on their goods, and you're going to eat that money. You. Big companies have already shown us, they have already proven to us time and time again that they are willing to, they can, and they will raise prices. For example, the current plan for, Kroger and Walmart to raise the price of water when it's hot outside, which is something that should be able to throw you in jail. If they're willing to raise the cost of water when it's hot outside, they are more than willing to pass those tariff prices on to you. They're not going to eat that money. You are.